In 1995, the internet was still a strange and unfamiliar place. Most people had never used it, most companies didn't understand it, and lawmakers had no idea what it was about to become. It was slow, messy, and full of weird little websites run by hobbyists, universities, and small tech companies experimenting with what this new digital world could be. No one at the time could have predicted that within a few decades, the internet would become the central place where people communicate, work, shop, learn, argue, and share their lives. But in the mid-1990s, something happened that almost stopped the modern internet from ever existing. And the solution to that problem became one of the most important laws ever written for the digital age. It's a law that most people have never heard of, but it quietly controls how the entire internet works. It affects social media, YouTube, online reviews, comment sections, forums, and almost every website where users can post content. That law is called Section 230, and without it, the internet as we know it today would probably not exist. To understand why this law was created, you have to go back to the early days of the internet, when online services like Prodigy, CompuServe, and AOL were some of the first companies trying to build online communities. These services allowed users to log in, read news, join message boards, and talk to other people online. It was one of the first versions of what we would now call social media. But there was a major problem that no one had solved yet. If users posted something illegal, harmful, or defamatory on one of these services, who was responsible? Was it the person who posted it, or was it the company that hosted the website? At first, the answer seemed simple. The person who wrote the post should be responsible, not the company. After all, phone companies weren't responsible for what people said on the phone, and bookstores weren't responsible for every sentence printed in every book they sold. But then, in 1995, a court case changed everything. A man named Stratton Oakmont, an investment firm, sued Prodigy, one of the early online services, because someone had posted a message on Prodigy's message board accusing the company of fraud. Prodigy had moderators who tried to remove offensive content and keep discussion somewhat clean. They were trying to be responsible and moderate their platform. But the court ruled that because Prodigy was moderating content, it was acting like a publisher, not just a distributor. And because it was acting like a publisher, it could be held legally responsible for what users posted. This created a huge and unexpected problem. The ruling basically said that if a website tried to moderate content and keep things clean, it could be sued for anything users posted. But if a website did no moderation at all and allowed anything to be posted, it might avoid liability because it wasn't acting like a publisher. In other words, the law accidentally encouraged websites to not moderate content at all. This scared the early internet companies and lawmakers, because it meant that if this legal standard continued, websites would either be sued constantly or they would stop moderating content entirely and the internet would become even more chaotic than it already was. Two members of the United States Congress, Chris Cox and Ron Wyden, saw this problem and decided something needed to be done. In 1996, as part of a larger telecommunications bill, they wrote a short piece of legislation that would later become known as Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. The key idea behind Section 230 was simple but incredibly important. It said that online platforms and websites would not be treated as the publisher of content posted by their users. In plain English, this meant that if a user posted something illegal, defamatory, or harmful, the website itself would not automatically be legally responsible for that content. It also included another important protection. It allowed websites to remove or moderate content they considered obscene, violent, or otherwise inappropriate without becoming legally liable for everything else on their platform. This solved the exact problem created by the Prodigy court case. Websites could now moderate content and try to keep their platform safe and usable, without being treated as the legal publisher of every single thing posted by millions of users. At the time, this seemed like a small technical legal fix. but it ended up becoming one of the most important legal protections in the history of technology. Because of Section 230, websites could allow users to post content without needing a team of lawyers to review every single post before it went online. Imagine if every YouTube video, every Reddit post, every Facebook post, every Amazon review, and every comment section had to be legally approved before it could be published. The internet would move incredibly slowly, most websites wouldn't exist, and only the largest companies in the world would be able to afford the legal risk. Section 230 allowed the modern internet to grow because it made user-generated content legally possible at scale. Over the next 2 decades, the internet exploded. New platforms appeared that were entirely built on user-generated content. Wikipedia launched in 2001. Facebook launched in 2004. YouTube launched in 2005. Twitter launched in 2006. Reddit grew into one of the largest forums in the world. Amazon reviews, blog comments, online forums, and social media all became normal parts of everyday life. All of these platforms relied on the same basic idea: users create the content, and the platform hosts it. But because of Section 230, the platform itself usually isn't legally treated as the person who wrote the content. However, as the internet grew, so did the problems. Social media brought misinformation, harassment, illegal content, and online abuse. And many people began to question whether Section 230 gave too much protection to tech companies. Critics argued that companies were hiding behind Section 230 while still controlling what people could and couldn't say on their platforms. Others argued that without Section 230, most websites would shut down the comment sections and user posts entirely to avoid lawsuits. This debate has continued for years, and Section 230 has been called both the law that created the internet and the law that protects big tech. Lawmakers have proposed changing it, limiting it, or removing it entirely. But no matter what people think about it, there is one thing that most experts agree on: without Section 230, the internet would look completely different. Most social media platforms probably wouldn't exist in their current form. Many websites would remove comment sections. Online forums would disappear. Small websites would shut down because they couldn't afford legal risk. Only a few massive companies would be able to survive, because they would be the only ones with enough money to handle constant lawsuits. Section 230 didn't just shape the internet. It shaped how people communicate with each other in the modern world. It allowed millions of people to publish their thoughts, ideas, videos, businesses, and communities online without needing permission from a publisher, a TV network, or a newspaper. For better or worse, it gave everyone a voice on the internet. Today, every time someone posts a video, writes a comment, leaves a review, edits Wikipedia, posts on social media, or uploads a photo, they are using a system that exists largely because of a law written in 1996, before smartphones, before social media, and before most people had ever even used the internet. Section 230 is only a few sentences long, but those sentences helped create the modern internet. It is one of the most important laws most people have never heard of, and it quietly controls the digital world we live in every day. And whether people realize it or not, almost everything they do online exists in the world that Section 230 built.